What's up, everyone? Carol was trying to figure out how to play something from her computer and then turn the volume off. Anyways, all right. To pick up on where we left off the other day, we're going to talk about minor keys. Everybody's always asking me about this because there's many different types of minor keys. The key that you're most familiar with probably is natural minor, or that you've heard of anyways. But there are other types of minor keys, and really the question is, how do you know when you're in a minor key versus a major key? So before we get into that, let me talk about what the natural minor scale is and what natural minor keys are. So you have your circle of fifths that we talked about last time with all the major keys. And I started up here on C major, went down to F sharp major and back around. So this is the sharp side, this is the flat side. Now you can tell that this looks like the circle of fifths that we had the other day, except I put all the minor keys here, okay? So these would be the relative minors of the major keys. For example, A minor is the relative minor of C major. Just like you would say that C major is the relative major key of A minor. So I could actually do this and kind of go like that. A minor, C major, right? E minor, G major. B minor, D major. F sharp minor, A major. C sharp minor is E major. G sharp is B major. D sharp, E flat, you have F sharp major or G flat major. B flat minor is D flat major. Where should I put it? On this side maybe? Here we have A flat and F minor. Here we have E flat and C minor. Here we have B flat and G minor. And there we have F major and D minor. Okay, so these are your relative majors and these are your relative minors. But they have the same amount of sharps and flats. If I'm in the key, if I have a staff, right, like this, let's see, I've got something like this, hold on, let me make a staff here. Let's see, you see something like this, and then you have this. That's an F sharp there. But,
wait,
what, that's not an F sharp? No, what am I talking about? It's a D sharp. I'm thinking of bass clef. Hold on. So, sorry. There we go. So, thank you, Carol. Okay, so one sharp is if you were in the key, if you had an E minor chord, for example, as this first chord, and you had one sharp in your key signature, you'd know you were in E minor. Okay, that's kind of how this works. So the relative minor and relative majors share the same key signature, but you have to know what the chord progression is to know whether you're in major or minor. That's really the long and short of it. This is just a guide to memorize how the major and minor keys are related, okay? Once you know all the major keys, you actually need to just know the relative minor keys. And here's this is the little chart for it here. The natural minor or the relative minor key is always a minor third or a flat third below the major. If you're in C major, you go down a minor third, the note A, and that's your relative minor. If you're on the note C, right, and move down, or if you're on the note, let's say B flat, and you move down a minor third, you're on the note, you're on G, and it's G minor. Okay, so they share the same key signature. So the tricky thing is, it's like, okay, when am I in major and minor? Well, when you're in a minor key, the chord patterns will typically start on the tonic, which will be a minor chord, okay? There are songs, let's say I have a song like this. This is a tune called Black Orpheus. This is a kind of old school jazz tune. Then that's all I'll do. I'll just do the beginning of it. It goes like this. Starts in here. starts in A minor 7, but it's not A minor. So usually, if you start on a minor chord in a tune, you don't know it's minor until you see what comes after it. And typically, you'll see whether there are chords that are related to the minor key. If it keeps coming back, like here, you've got A minor, then you have B minor 7 flat 5, E7 flat 9 to A minor. So right there, by the sound of it, I know I'm in a minor key. But you're saying, well, where do these chords come from? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. When you're in natural minor, it's difficult to say because you don't necessarily have a lot of tunes that are in natural minor. We talked about this tune the other day, Blue Bossa, that goes C minor 7 for 2 bars, F minor 7 for 2 bars, and then it goes D minor 7 flat 5 to G7, let's say sharp 5 to C minor 7 for 2 bars, okay? Now, right here, you see the C minor chord, and I'm like, well, am I in C minor? It could be an E flat major, but I start looking, well, F minor, that's an E flat major too, F minor 7. I see this chord, D minor 7 flat 5, I said, well, that's actually in E flat major too. But once I've had 3 chords that are in a minor key, like this, and the first chord is in the relative minor, I pretty much know that I'm in the minor key. Now this really seals the deal, this G7 chord. But G7 is not actually in C natural minor because it has a B in it. And in C natural minor, as I will show you, there is no B. That's why you typically don't find minor keys, just natural minor keys. In most minor keys, the 5th degree of the scale has a raised third or leading tone. That is what makes it have more of a drive to the tonic. So let's talk about a minor key here. I'm going to talk A minor. We'll start because it's easiest to know. So if you're in the key of A minor, the 1 chord is going to be minor. The 2 chord is diminished, so I'm going to go like this. The 3 chord is going to be major, which would be C. Use a capital Roman numeral for that. Then you got D minor, E minor, F major. So this is going to be 4 is minor, 5 is minor, 6 is major, and your 7th chord here, G, is going to be major. Okay? So, in a minor key, in a natural minor key, the 1, 4, 5 are minor, okay? So in minor keys, this is a natural minor, right? 1, 4, 5 are minor. Just like in the major key, 1, 4, and 5 are major, right? Just the opposite. Then you have 3, 6, and 7 are major. So 3, 6, and 7 are major. Okay, so major is capital Roman numerals, or uppercase. And 2 is diminished. So these are minor, these are major, and this one is diminished. Now, thing is, you typically don't have natural minor keys like this because typically the 5 chord is going to be a major chord or a dominant chord. Okay, you have that raised third. So this would be E major. So you'd have a G sharp in there. So when you're in a minor key, you're really in either melodic minor or harmonic minor. Probably in harmonic minor. Okay, so let me explain those two. Because they are a little bit different, because they have different notes in them. So the formula for harmonic minor, we're going to start with that actually, because that's actually more common. So if I'm in A harmonic minor, I have the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, okay? And if I were to put numbers here, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, major 7. Okay, right here is you have an augmented second interval there between the F and the G sharp. And that scale sounds like this. You've all heard it. Kind of has a Spanish sound to it. Right? So that's where you get these. Right? There's your harmonic minor sound. So if you build the chords off of this scale, all right, your 1 chord, am I in this shot here? Yes, right?
Yeah. Why?
Your 1 chord, I was just wondering, I'm looking, I'm standing over here, I was like, am I in the
No,
shot?
you're fine.
Okay. Okay, so if you start building chords, your 2 chord is diminished, right? Your 3 chord, C, E, G sharp, is actually augmented, so you use a plus. So 3 is a plus. Your 4 chord, D, F, A, is D minor, so your 4 chord is minor. Your 5 chord, E, G sharp, B, there's your major. So we have our major here. All right, so you got 1 and 5. That's really going to be your defining sound. And your flat 6 chord here, your F, is going to be major. F, A, C. And then this chord here, the 7th chord, is G sharp, B, D, which is G sharp diminished. So your 7 chord is diminished. That little circle means diminished, okay? So, this is your formula for harmonic minor. These are the chords that you find in the harmonic minor scale, okay? So, it'd be this: A minor, B diminished, C augmented, D minor, E major, F major, G sharp diminished. Okay, that's my chord progression there. I created the scale first, I put the Roman numerals in, and then I changed the chords to fit it. Okay, so if I had a chord progression like this, A minor to B diminished to E major, you typically don't see that. You typically would see a half diminished chord, the E7. Okay, half diminished would be a minor 7 flat 5. B minor 7 flat 5 is half diminished. The E7 would typically have a flat 9 on it. One of the reasons is E, G sharp, B, D, F. That's your flat 9 there. So that's how you start to get that minor sound. So you got your 1, right? Then you have your 2 half diminished to your 5, 7 flat 9 back to your 1. It could be 1. It could be A minor here again. So this is how you tell when you're in a minor key, because you're going to have this 5 chord's going to be a major chord or a dominant chord. Okay? So this is really when you know you're in a minor key. So certain tunes, like might start in a major key. Like let's say you've got, let me think here. Let's say a tune like, let's say I've got something, let's say I got a chord progression like this. I'll just make one up. D minor 7, G7, C major 7. Then you go B minor 7 flat 5, E7 flat 9, A minor 7. Okay, let me play that for you. You go like this. Well, if I look at this chord progression, I say, well, okay, remember we talked about this the other day? Anytime you have a dominant chord, you know that you're in, that's the 5 chord in a key. So I'm going to use that same principle. I'm going to look at this chord progression and say, well, that's a dominant chord. That's a G7 chord there, okay? I'm going to look across here and say, wait a minute, here's an E7 chord. It's E7 flat 9, so that's a dominant chord. Now, this is, G7 is only in the key of C, okay? So, knowing that, I know this is the 5 chord, right? It's really 5-7. These could be just straight chord. It doesn't have to be D minor 7, it could be just be D minor, but I'll make a D minor 7, okay? So this will be the 2 chord in the key of C, 2 minor 7, 5 chord, the 1 chord, we'll go 1 major 7. It could just be C major. When I get to here, you could say, well, B minor 7 flat 5, that's actually in the key of C major. That's actually a 7 minor 7 flat 5, or 7 half diminished. But then this E7, where is that? Well, you could get fancy and say, that's really the 5-7 of 6. That's too confusing. That's a secondary dominance that we talked about the other day. This is actually where you go, you know what? I modulated here to A minor. I use a lowercase a here for this, right? From A minor. This is the 2 chord, 2 minor 7 flat 5. This is the 5-7 flat 9 to the 1 minor 7 chord, okay? This A minor 7 and B minor 7 flat 5 have a dual function. This is really the 7th chord in the key of C major, B minor 7 flat 6, B minor 7 flat 5, and A minor 7 is really the 6th chord in the key of C major, okay? So you could say, this could also function, like I said, as a 7 half diminished, or a 7, that would be minor 7 flat 5. This could be the 6th chord. If you're in the key of C major, then this chord would actually be a 5-7 of 6. But that is really not what it sounds like. It actually sounds like you've gone to the minor key because of this chord. Because this has a strong resolution tendency to this A minor. Because the 3rd of the E7 chord is the note G sharp, which is the leading tone. Right, so when I'm in C major, right, I've got, there's 2, 5, 1, then 2, 5, 1, okay? And this chord is E7 chord, right? So, it's all about context, knowing what key you're in. Typically when you're in a minor key, like I said, you're in harmonic minor, but not always. You could actually be in melodic minor, because melodic minor has a 5th degree that is raised. Now, in jazz, we use the same scale, melodic minor, ascending and descending. That's what I'm talking about here. So, a melodic minor would be A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, okay, not F natural, and then G sharp. You can already see it's got that G sharp, that leading tone, which is going to be the 3rd of the E major chord, okay? So in A melodic minor, this is going to be melodic minor. You have the 1 chord is minor, the 2 chord is diminished, so it's the same, so far it's the same as harmonic minor. The 3 chord is augmented, C, E, G sharp, okay, so you do 3 plus means augmented. Your 4 chord, D, F sharp, A is D major, okay, this is a little different here. So your 4 chord is major. Your 5 chord, E, G sharp, B is major. So you see the progression is slightly different. Your 6 chord is F sharp, A, C, which is actually diminished. So 6 is diminished. And the 7th chord, G sharp, B, D, is also diminished. So you have a different formula here. So in melodic minor, right, minor, diminished, augmented, major, major, diminished, diminished. Okay? This is a little bit different. These are when you start getting into your jazz modes, okay? The modes that go along with these are melodic minor, Dorian flat 2, Lydian augmented, Mixolydian sharp 11, or Lydian flat 7, Mixolydian sharp 11 is what we call it. Mixolydian flat 6, Locrian natural 2, and altered dominant or super Locrian or diminished whole tone. It has multiple names. But don't get confused, because this is all in my book, the Beato book, which I'm having a sale right now until midnight Eastern time. I haven't done any sales. I'm rarely going to do sales on this. There's a promotion code, which is RB20. That's like Beato Book 2.0, but just RB20. So you go to the website, go to rickbeato.com, enter that in, and what is it? How much percent off is it?
20%.
20% off. Anyways, but I'm not going to do sales very often. For those of you that have already bought the book, if you haven't gotten your Pay What You Want link for it, write me at rickbeato1@gmail, and Carol will respond back to you and send you the link that you need for it. Okay, so these are the chords of the melodic minor scale. So the one, there's only one chord that's a minor chord here, okay? So it's, this one is different than the harmonic, right? So you've got your one chord minor equals 1. Your 2, 6, and 7, right? So you get B, D, F. I'm sorry, I screwed up here. This is minor. So 1 and 2 are minor. Sorry about that. 1 and 2 are minor. Whoops. There we go. 1 and 2 are minor. Your 6 and 7 are diminished. And your 3 is augmented. Gets confusing. 3 is a plus. And 4 and 5 are major. So you have all types of chords here. 4 and 5. Now, it's interesting because in a major key, your 4 and 5 are major as well. But your one chord is minor here. These are for chords that, and chord scales that go more with jazz tunes, that are more, I guess I would call colorful. If I'm playing an E minor 7 flat 5 chord here, and I play it. That's what I would call a Locrian natural 2. That is the 6th mode of the harmonic, or of the melodic minor scale. You also get scales like altered dominant, which is the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale. And you get cool chords like leading augmented, okay, that you play over major 7 sharp 5 chords. These are really beautiful scales. They're used more in jazz and more in modern classical music. They're great to know as well. So every one of these minor modes are important to know. The natural minor, the melodic, and harmonic. So you got natural minor, whoops. Your melodic minor, and your harmonic minor. The only thing you need to know is you need to know what the formula for these scales are. The natural minor is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. The melodic minor is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the harmonic minor is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7. So, you can see the difference. They all have the flat 3. That's what gives it its minor quality. They all have a natural 5th in them. This is where you get the different notes here. You get the flat 6 is in both natural minor and harmonic minor. These two scales have major 7ths, whereas this one has a flat 7, okay? Natural minor is really related to the major scale. That's why it's called the natural minor or the relative minor scale. These two scales are different. They both have major chords built off the fifth. Those are the ones that will give you the sound of a real true minor key. That sounds more like what you would hear in, they become easily identifiable as being in minor. Minor keys usually will have a raised third or a raised seventh in the key, raised seventh, or raised third on the 5 chord. Okay, so in each of these, if you're in A natural minor, A melodic minor, and A harmonic minor, in this one, the 5 chord is E minor, right? But in these two, the 5 chord is E major. Okay, this is the 5 chord. So that is the important thing. And the reason is because built on the 5 chord, you have this note is different. That would be the third of your 5 chord, okay? So that would be E, that would be no G sharp in both these scales. So if I were to actually tell you the notes in these scales, in the key of A natural minor, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A melodic minor, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. Harmonic minor, A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp. Okay? You simply have to memorize these formulas and memorize what chords are in the key, which chords are major, which chords are minor, which are augmented, which are diminished. Once you memorize those formulas, it's really only 3 formulas you have to remember. You got to remember this. You don't even need to remember the key signatures. That's not important. You have to know what chords fall on what scale degrees. If you look at my book, it's right in the first chapter, within the first, 10 pages or so, it talks about these minor keys and the minor scales. Now, there's also other minor keys that are related to modes, okay? This gets more complex, and I don't want to bog you down with all this stuff right now. But there are many different types of minor scales, okay, that are modal scales. For example, Dorian. These are just in the major scale. Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian. In the major scale, there's those. You could say Locrian is a type of minor scale. All these have a flat third in them. Then you get melodic minor. All right, these are from the melodic minor scale. Dorian flat 2. Whoops. Then you have Locrian natural 2. And then you've got harmonic minor. There's just so many of them. The Dorian sharp 4, Locrian natural 6 are from the harmonic minor scale. So these are modal scales that have minor flavors to them. Don't need to know those. This is really for more advanced. For those of you that are in advanced theory, I've got some great videos. I have a video called the double harmonic major scale that's got some great modes in it. I have videos on the modes of the harmonic minor scale, of all 7 modes. I have a video of all the modes of the melodic minor scale, and that give you the sound of these different things. Okay, so if you were to look, I'm just going to take these 3 modes that are built off the 2, 3, and 6 in the major scale. You got Dorian, Aeolian, and Phrygian. And if you look at how the scales are constructed, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and 1 flat 2. There's your kind of a Spanish feel, or if you're into gent or progressive metal, you have a lot of flat 2s. You're going to be playing in Phrygian. Flat 6, flat 7. You can see all these scales have a flat third in them. They all have 1, flat 3, 5. So they all have minor triad in them, okay? It's just the notes change. You get a flat 2 in this scale. You have flat 6, flat 7 in both those. This has a natural 6. That's what gives you the Dorian sound. I've got videos on modes. We'll talk more about modes in later episodes. Any questions? Carol?
Let's see. There seems to be an argument going around.
Okay.
So Philip says that, hold on, there was an argument, well, not an argument, but people are talking about what's the difference between a key change and a modulation. What do you think?
Usually key changes are things that are extended. But in the case of going to a minor key, if you have 3 chords in a row that are in one key, you're typically have modulated to a new key. Okay, especially if you have the 2, 5 and the 1 chord of a key. You're pretty much there. So like my example that I gave, D minor 7, G7, C major 7, then B minor 7 flat 5, E7 flat 9, A minor 7. You got a 2, 5, 1 in that minor key, you're definitely in that minor key. There's no question about it. You can analyze it as a secondary dominant, but to the ear, you've modulated to that minor key.
Okay.
So if there's one key that's out of place, one chord that's out of place, it can be, there's many ways that you can analyze it. You can analyze it as secondary dominant, you know, it could be a secondary diminished 7th chord, could be a lot of different things. You start getting a couple of chords that are out of key, then you got to start looking to say, have I changed keys? 1 chord, you're probably not out of the key.
Cool. Someone sent a super chat. HK?
HK, what's up?
Yeah, so he also sent in a question. Who played the first minor blues song that included the harmonic minor root or Phrygian major over the 5 chord? The framework for T-Bone, B.B. King, even Neil Young, etc. How far back do minor blues go?
Minor blues. You know, that's interesting. I don't know when the first minor blues would have been played. People have been playing minor blues for 100 years or so.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We don't talk about minor blues that often, or I don't. And used to play minor blues on gigs all the time. I love to play minor blues, but I'm going to do a video on minor blues in particular because there's a lot of jazz tunes that are minor blues. So, and I'll look up and see what the history is of when the first minor blues. I mean, people played. There's obviously a lot of records with, with minor blues. That obviously in the '60s there's tons of records with tunes in minor blues, and in the '50s as well. But people have been playing minor blues for a long time before that. So that's a great question, HK, which I expect from you. But I will make you a whole episode on minor blues. How's that? Because that's a great topic. Carol?
Okay, more questions.
Yep.
The Farce Awoken asked if there is any rule of harmony when to use a 5 minor.
Well, the 5 minor happens when you're in natural minor. And a lot of times you use a 5 minor for color because of the fact that it has that kind of different quality to it. You might want to use that in a tune. But you might want to use a 5 minor chord even if you're not in that minor key. If you're, you might want to use a 5 minor chord. It depends on what the melody is. I mean, it's really hard to say when you want to use that, but the only one of the 3 scales that has the 5 minor chord is the natural minor. So that's the only time that would happen. And there's many tunes that are in minor that have a minor 5 chord. If you go back and look at let me think here. Okay. What will be a tune that has a 5 minor chord here? Let's see. Originally, Greensleeves, I want to say, had actually a 5 minor chord. on some versions of Greensleeves, there's a 5 minor chord. Most of the time that people play Greensleeves, they play it with a 5 major chord, but there are plenty of versions of Greensleeves that you will hear with a 5 minor chord. That's going back pretty far.
More questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about negative harmony? Is that a different sort of like?
I have a video on negative harmony already
Okay.
called Musical Palindromes and Negative Harmony that actually explains negative harmony very well.
Okay, cool. This is an interesting one. Why are some theory manuals mentioning melodic minor as being different on the way up?
I have a video on that too.
Versus
I have a joke video on that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is that on the way up, you're moving towards the tonic, right? So if I'm in A melodic minor, then on the way down, I have the, since I'm moving away from the tonic, I have the flat 7. On the way up, I have the major 7, and the flat 7 is moving away from the tonic. Then you have the flat 6, which is leading you down to the 5th, okay? Think of the flat 6 as a leading tone to the 5th, okay, on the way down. So on the way up, pushing towards the tonic, moving away from the tonic. That's really why, because those notes, the 6th and the 7th that are raised on the way up, it's actually a great question. It'd be easier to see it if I write it down. So typically classical musicians, because this is how they will, in many pieces, you'll see melodies that will be written like this. So let's say we take A melodic minor, but with ascending, descending. So on the way up, you have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? But descending, you have flat 7, flat 6, 5, 4, flat 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it'd be the notes A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, G natural, F natural, E, D, C, B, A. Okay, this flat 6 moves down because you get that half step there, minor second interval there. Here, if I go from the 8, from A to G, this is a major second. You're moving away from the tonic, so you don't have that half step. Here, you're moving towards the tonic, right? Half step. So that minor second interval, but that half step there is leading you towards the tonic because you got that G sharp, right? It's part of the E major chord. F sharp is moving away from the 5th, okay? If I had that natural, if I had F natural, then you're in harmonic minor, okay? So it's just a different sound. This is pushing you, that natural 6 is pushing you to the tonic on the way up. This is bringing you back on the way down with the natural minor scale. So this is natural minor on the way down. This is melodic minor on the way up. But that's why. I think that's good for today. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. Remember, the code for the Beato book, only till midnight Eastern time, is RB20. And sign up for my Spotify playlist. Check it out. I have it. I just put it up yesterday. Look under Rick Beato. It's Beatified Sounds. That's BEATOFIED Sounds. So like a 3-hour playlist of tunes that I like to listen to. That's my playlist of the month. If you'll say, follow me on Twitter, Rick Beato 1 on Twitter. And Instagram, Rick Beato 1. Is my Twitter Rick Beato 1?
Yeah, it is. Oh, wait. No, I don't
know.
know.
No, it's just Rick Beato, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't even remember what my Twitter is.
One last question.
One last question, yeah.
What's your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert, oh man, that's It's this thing called Midnight Express cake. It's chocolate cake with white chocolate frosting. I get it every year on my birthday. The cake weighs about 10 pounds, and each slice is about 1,000 calories. So, but I end up eating just about the whole cake, and I gain about 10 pounds, and I try and lose it after. And so that's my favorite dessert. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe.